Thank you. Respectable Ambassador Cui Tiankai, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. I'm glad to welcome the distinguished guests who are from United States and China to the conference on China-US cooperation in global security affairs. If we look at the current situation, current international relations, and current international security architectures, we might agree with that the US-China relation is the most important one in the world. It is not only because that United States is the largest developed country and China is the largest developed country, but also because the challenges and the difficulties we are facing now are what that we have never encountered before. So in this sense, the relationship between China and the United States has entered a new historical period. On the one hand, the two nations have never needed each other so much like today. On the other hand, the two nations have never been needed each other so much like today. On the other hand, the relationship has never been so complicated and sensitive and so vulnerable due to the lack of transparency or miscalculation. The relationship between China and the United States today faces considerable challenges, but also greater possibilities for developing what the Chinese President Xi Jinping has described as new model for great powers. In order to realize this aspiration, scholars, policymakers, diplomats have much work to do in reconciling tensions that arise between American and Chinese policies and practices. Think tanks and scholars play an important role in bilateral relations and the government policy-making process. This is why we are here today to address our common concerns with our American friends. Our speakers today will contribute to this effort by confronting some of the most vexing issues in bilateral relationship and exploring potential areas for practical cooperation in the future. In today's discussion, we will touch upon such issues as security, maritime security, and cybersecurity, energy policy, and climate change. Those issues are challenges both China and the United States are facing that need us work together to address properly. From my perspective, maritime security and cybersecurity do not represent China-US relationship as a whole. They do, however, present greater difficulties to the broader achievements the two countries have made in discovering mutually beneficial common ground. Meanwhile, the areas of energy policy and cooperation combating piracy and terrorism provide possible areas where China and the United States can begin cultivating trust and gain in experience in collaboration. As important as the work of today's conference is, it is only a small part of what must be continuous, ongoing exchange of practical ideas between American and Chinese thinkers. This kind of dialogue is essential to promoting shared understanding of the challenges of the two nations face together, and enabling such discussion is a worthy mission for us. Finally, I would like to thank the co-organizers of this event, National Committee on U.S.-China Relations, still are here, and China Institute, University of Alberta, Canada, and China Center for Collaborative Studies of South China Sea, Nanjing University. I look forward to your valuable thoughts and insights, and I hope you all enjoy the conference. Thank you very much for your attention.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and very happy to see some old friends and get acquainted with some new friends. And I'm here for two additional reasons. First is to follow the good example of Dr. Henry Kissinger. Wherever he goes to share his vision about this important relationship, I should be there to echo him. Number two, to express my appreciation of and support to think tank exchanges between our two countries. Because China-US relationship is so important that in addition to government ties, we should have the support and participation of the general public and the intellectual input from think tanks of both countries. So thank you, President Wu, for initiating this important conference. And the theme of the discussion today is of pressing importance. The world is undergoing profound changes and confronting us with a growing number of security challenges, old and new, traditional and non-traditional. We still have quite a few long-lasting regional conflicts. And the resurgence of geopolitical conflicts is truly worrisome. We are also faced with the rise of international terrorism, extremism, proliferation, and mounting ethnic and sectarian conflicts. And in the broader sense, we're also confronted with such security challenges as cross-border crimes, climate change, cybersecurity, energy security, food security, natural disasters, and infectious diseases. And China and the United States, we are respectively the world's biggest developing country and biggest developed country. We are the world's two largest economies. Each has extensive ties with the rest of the world. So we both need an effective international order, the normal functioning of the global market, and stability in the world. So we do have common interests in addressing all these security challenges together. At the same time, both our countries are permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and we are important players in the existing international order. So we have shared responsibilities together with other countries to maintain international peace and stability and bring about a safe and secure world for all. So, as Dr. Kissinger said just now, relations between China and the United States are key to global stability. And it is encouraging to note that communication and coordination between our two countries on security issues, bilateral, regional, and international, are making steady progress and becoming important building blocks for the new model of relationship we are developing. These issues are among the priority items on the agenda of high-level exchanges, particularly meetings between the two presidents. We also have effective bilateral mechanisms for coordination and cooperation, such as the Strategic and Economic Dialogue, Strategic Security Dialogue, and Secretary Johnson of Homeland Security Department has just concluded a very successful and fruitful visit to China. And the two militaries are also enhancing their interactions through confidence-building measures, high-level dialogues, and more joint exercises and training. We are working together, both bilaterally and multilaterally, on counterterrorism, non-proliferation, regional issues such as Afghanistan and South Sudan. We are also working together on the global challenges such as climate change, energy, food security, relief and prevention of natural disasters, and prevention of diseases like Ebola. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Our two countries are also working together and alongside with other countries to maintain and reform the international order and to bring about better security for the mankind. So we should be proud of what we have already achieved. However, measured against the need to respond to changing situation and mounting challenges, measured against our great responsibilities to cooperate on these issues and the real potential for such cooperation, what we have already achieved is clearly not sufficient. We have to do more and much better. I think here the key is our mentalities and perceptions. Do we base ourselves on the new realities of the 21st century? Or do we still believe that the world could be run in the same way as in the 19th century or early part of the 20th century? Do we seek win-win cooperation among countries, or do we still play a zero-sum game? Do we advocate a new concept for security that stands for common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security? Or do we try to achieve one's own absolute security at the expense of others? Do we work together to build broad-based partnerships that will enable us to effectively confront the global issues for common interests? Or do we still keep a narrow focus on Cold War type of alliances that actually restrict the vision, reduce the choices, and will render the world more divided and less secure? These are the choices we have to make, and our choice will determine our future. For China, the choice is clear. We will continue to pursue the path of peaceful development and the independent foreign policy of peace. Although China is still the world's largest developing country and faced with tremendous tasks of reform and development at home, we are keenly aware of our international responsibilities and the expectations of the international community. We will make even greater contributions to global peace, security, development, and prosperity as our own country continues to grow. As for our relations with the United States, we remain firmly committed to building a new model of relationship with the U.S., which is characterized by no conflict, no confrontation, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation. And indeed, we hope that America will make the same right choice. Break the constraints of unfounded worries, suspicions, or fears, and join us in this common endeavor. Actually, I don't think there is a real alternative to this. Our two countries have to be on the right side of history together in order to safeguard the well-being and interests of our peoples and help make the world a better and safer place for all. Nowadays, whenever discussions on security matters are held, maritime security is most often one of the priorities. So let me take this opportunity to share with you my own views on the issue, and particularly with regard to the situation in South China Sea. First, China's position regarding its territorial sovereignty is clear and consistent over many decades. Our position has not changed and will not change. This should be no surprise to anyone. While we are determined to safeguard our sovereignty and maritime rights, we also exercise best restraint in handling disputes with others. We will continue to do so. It would be totally unfair, however, to ask China to give up its legitimate rights and give in to the unjustifiable demands of certain parties. So let there be no illusion that anyone could impose on China a unilateral status quo. And let there be no illusion that anyone could repeatedly violate China's sovereignty without consequences. Second, China stands for peaceful settlement of disputes through diplomatic dialogue and negotiations. Together with ASEAN countries, China has proposed a dual-track approach on the issue of South China Sea. That is, negotiation and consultation on territorial disputes between countries directly concerned on the basis of respect for historical facts and international law, and joint efforts by China and ASEAN countries to maintain peace and stability in the region. This approach is in line with norms in international law and relevant international practices, and is supported by the overwhelming majority of ASEAN members. There is now ongoing consultation among China and ASEAN countries to formulate a code of conduct in the South China Sea. At the same time, China, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia are engaged in maritime cooperation in a variety of fields. Projects funded by China-ASEAN Maritime Cooperation Fund and China-Indonesia Maritime Cooperation Fund are being implemented effectively. Moreover, China and ASEAN have also designated 2015 as the year for maritime cooperation and launched an extensive program of activities. And it must be pointed out that China and ASEAN countries share much larger common interests in overall regional stability and prosperity. The bonds that unite us are much stronger and longer lasting than any possible difference between us. China and ASEAN countries belong to the same community of common destiny. And on that solid basis, we are able to work out proper solutions to existing disputes. I'm fully confident of that. Third, there have been some media reports recently about maintenance and construction work that China is carrying out on some of the Nansha Islands and reefs. And you may have also noticed the briefing given by the spokesperson of China's foreign ministry. Let me reiterate here that such work is well within China's sovereignty. It does not impact or target any other country. The main purpose is to improve the functions of facilities there so as to provide services to ships of China, neighboring countries, and other countries that sail across the South China Sea. Such services will include shelter for ships, navigation aid, search and rescue, marine meteorological observation, fishery service, and many others. Emphasis will also be put on marine environment protection. Of course, there will be military defense facilities. This is only natural and necessary, and they are purely for defensive purposes. Just imagine if these facilities could not even defend themselves, how can they provide service to others? If China could not safeguard its own sovereignty, how can it shoulder great responsibilities for international stability? Therefore, building up of China's capabilities in the South China Sea provides public goods to all and serves the interests of maintaining security, stability, and freedom of navigation there. Last but not least, all this must be seen and understood in the context of China's foreign policy and defense policy. China has an independent foreign policy of peace and a defense policy that is defensive in nature. They are dictated by our national goals and interests, our cultural heritage, and our determination to pursue the path of peaceful development. China has long been a strong advocate for international cooperation and a staunch force for world peace. Facts show that as China grows stronger, it is better able to take up greater international responsibilities and contribute more to regional and global stability. So a clear understanding of this big picture will lead to a good understanding of what China really wants and what China is doing in the region. Anyone who shares our commitment to community building in the region shall have nothing to worry about. And of course here, like elsewhere, we also seek cooperation with other countries, particularly with the United States. So, as asked by the chairperson, maybe I should stop here and take questions. Thank you.
So we will have a couple minutes for questions and Q&A, and please identify yourself. There's a lady. Yeah, the lady over there. Lady first, right?
At his press conference at the APEC meeting with President Obama, invited the United States to participate in the great project of the One Belt and One Road.
Yeah.
This is a project, of course, that encompasses a large section of mankind in infrastructure building and is working in terms of the common aims of mankind. I was wondering, are you getting a response here in the United States? Do people understand the global significance of this project? And is there a willingness in some part, I don't know that President Obama has answered in one way or another to the invitation, but is there an understanding, and do you indicate a willingness on the part of the United States to be a part of this great project?
Mm-hmm. I think our proposal on this One Belt, One Road is aimed at common development and prosperity for all the related countries and for the world at large. And it is open to participation and involvement of the rest of the world. So the United States is certainly welcome to join us in this new endeavor. I hope the U.S. will see clearly the long-term benefit and the common interests there and take a very positive approach to this project. I'm still expecting, or maybe I'm still waiting for, more specific and positive response from the U.S. government. I hope people from the think tanks here could make the right recommendation to them. Thank you.
Ambassador, my question is in relation to the South China Sea. As you mentioned, you talked quite a lot in your keynote address. In recent years, we often hear the criticism that China's practice in the South China Sea is not in line with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. We would like to have your comment on this narrative. Thank you so much.
Well, I think the fact is that China was one of the first countries to join, to accede to, and ratify the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And we take our international obligations very seriously. Of course, we would welcome more countries to join us, including the United States. You are most welcome to join us. But I think that there are two things that we have to make clear here. First, the convention was not intended to solve territorial issues. This is quite clear in the preamble of the convention itself. Number two, the convention does not give anyone the right to conduct intensive and close-range reconnaissance activities in other countries' exclusive economic zone. Let's be clear about that. Thank you.
International Corporation. Has China considered any confidence-building measures possibly in the South China Sea to reassure those other countries whose concern you mentioned, and if so, what are they?
Consistent efforts for confidence building in South China Sea. I just listed a number of events, or a number of activities, or cooperation projects between China and ASEAN countries. And also, we had the DOC, Declaration of Conduct for parties to South China Sea. We conclude our discussion on that political document successfully more than a decade ago. And now we are working on a more legal document, a COC. So I think that there's a meeting of minds between China and the ASEAN countries that we should build up our mutual confidence and really work together to maintain stability in South China Sea and to achieve common prosperity for all of us. So I don't think there's any lack of such measures or efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
But
Please join me.
may I put in just one word? But at the same time, I hope other countries could be supportive to our confidence-building measures. I really think that nobody should try to do anything that might hurt the growing mutual confidence between the countries in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. No, I think that's thank you. Thank you. So we were about to start the panel one on